Hey there, my name's Adam Allen. I'm representing our group for Mexico to present to you as our Vice President for product integration moving forward. Our purpose is to present this information to you showing reasoning behind moving our company to Mexico through historical data and future product ideas. So we're going to start off with the HOFC cultural comparison. So there's 6 different dimensions that HOFC runs off of. You can read those on the right side. They're power distance, individualism, masculinity, UAI or uncertainty avoidance index, long-term orientation, and indulgence versus restraint. So the HOFC cultural comparison provides a concise breakdown of cross-cultural communication through specific metrics that denote different levels of cultural norms. The graph is the comparison for the two countries and how they vary in metrics related to business practices and norms. This will allow us to know how to best work with, negotiate, and help businesses be as smooth and as easy as possible as we venture into the country. The biggest differences in the categories that we saw were between power distance and individualism. This difference could lead to hiccups in coachability and less leniency in HR dealings, but we did see categories that were very similar in masculinity and long-term orientation, which could both aid in ideals and cultural norms, and as well help with smoothing over other cultural issues as we relate over those. With global business culture in Mexico, it basically breaks down into 4 different parts: the communication culture, evaluating culture, disagreeing culture, and scheduling culture. And as you look on the right, obviously you'll see the US is very far left on low context. So they're left on everything. That means they have low context, they have direct feedback, they're confrontational, and they have linear scheduling. Whereas Mexico is more in the middle, slightly towards the high context side. That means Mexico is going to actually have more context in their business dealings. So you're going to need to know more of the background of what's going on. And they're going to have more nonverbal cues, right? They're going to use more facial expressions and stuff like that to express the way that they're feeling about a business agreement or a proposed offer that we've given to them. And their scheduling is a little bit more flexible, so they're not as tied down to dates and deadlines like the people in the US are. And up there on the top is basically a breakdown of, what would happen if we went to the country without being aware of these business cultures, and why is it so different for us when we go to these countries, and how to avoid that as well. Jumping straight into bargaining strategies, Harvard actually provided that graph or that breakdown on the right of different dimensions of negotiation. So as you read through those, in Mexico, business professional attire matters a lot. Punctuality is crucial, even if they are not punctual. Positions matter to them, and using names and titles at first meetings is super important. They don't want you to jump right into the business. They want you to have plenty of small talk leading up to the matter of negotiations. They want you to know their customs. They want you to shake their hands, trade business cards. They want you to use titles at the beginning to establish a positive rapport with them. All of this is aiding us in being able to bargain them down later on as we build a trustworthy and real relationship with them. Now going into the government structure, we got lucky with Mexico, and it is a good option for us because of the government structure. It's very similar to the US. It's led by the president, who right now is Andrés Manuel López Obrador. He was elected by the 31 states within Mexico in 2018. The legislative branch also goes through elections every 3 years, and the judicial branch is selected by the president and confirmed by the Senate. This structure makes it super easy for us to navigate potential governmental issues because of the similarities between Mexico and the US. Jumping into the EFI, or Economic Freedom of Index, this is basically a way to measure various parameters that measures aspects of a country on different metrics. These parameters are used to generate a score for the country on where it will be located in the Economic Freedom Index as compared to all the other countries that are included in it. And a few of these examples, we'll move on to talking about the 12 freedoms super quick. These are just a breakdown of exactly what the freedoms are. You can go through and actually, it's pretty simple to figure out what they mean. On the next slide, we'll break down the ones that are most important to us. So now that you know kind of more of the definitions of those, this will give it more context as we jump into the 12 freedom comparison between Mexico and the rest of the world. And you'll see that really Mexico is right on par with everybody else in the rest of the world, which is good news for us as we move into the country because we don't have to worry about any of those outliers really affecting us too much. But the most glaring statistics were that Mexico has a much lower judicial effectiveness rating as compared to the rest of the world, relatively, right? Not compared to a lot of other countries, but to the rest of the world. And then as well, had a high fiscal health score when compared to the rest of the world. The rest of the metrics were pretty comparable, like I said. This is super good news for us because we're very similar to the rest of the world. So that way we're right on par, don't have to look for any of these outliers. With starting a business in Mexico, it's a pretty simple process. Basically, you just need to get authorization to use the name online. You need to have a notary public with you there to file a deed with the Public Registry of Commerce. You need to register with the IMSS or their Social Security Institute. You need to register with their tax authorities for payroll tax enrollment, and you need to notify the local government online of the opening of a mercantile establishment. But besides that, that's pretty much it, and we're ready to move on to the next one. So MFN, or Most Favored Nation treatment, this is to do with nations that are a part of the WTO, which Mexico is, and it basically is just showing is a way to ensure that every country that's part of the WTO or World Trade Organization is treated fairly. So if one partner within that organization gets a concession, then all of them get that concession. And so this breakdown on the right, in the data table shown, you'll actually see that products like beverages, dairy products, confectionery have high duties for Mexico, and those should be avoided in future business ventures as we go into the country. So keep that in mind as we develop different products. For the free trade agreements, or FTAs as they're called, the US, Canada, and Mexico actually formed NAFTA, and that has been their biggest trade agreement that they've been part of, and something very fruitful for them actually. So this makes it super easy for us to just dive right in because of those tariffs that have been lifted as we go into Mexico. With Mexico being a part of the WTO and having several regional trade agreements in place, it's a solid option for importing goods to a warehouse or a factory there. And it might be a good option to actually produce some of our stuff there, depending on the different tariffs and the different costs of goods sold as we move into Mexico. That's something to consider as well. With FDI, or foreign direct investment, to put it simply, FDI is when you own a company and you live out of the country, right? And so that would be us with Mexico. Mexico is a place that has always supported FDI and consistently been increasing their economy due to it. The trade agreement between Mexico, Canada, and the United States increases the success of FDI. Reforms in the energy, power generation, telecommunications, and retail fuel sales sectors have liberalized access for foreign investors. While reforms have not led to the privatization of state-owned enterprises such as Pemex or the Federal Electricity Commission, they have allowed private firms to participate. The IMEX program refers to the promotion which allows manufacturing sector companies to temporarily import inputs without paying general import tax and value-added tax. The government as well even has a whole department strictly for FDI attraction through land grants, tax deductions, innovation, workforce funding, etc., and stuff like that. So it's a great place to invest if you're out of the country. So this is a great opportunity for us as a business. Foreign direct, so FDI again to Mexico. This is basically just breaking down kind of historically that the United States has been one of the largest sources of FDI in Mexico. According to Mexico's Secretariat of Economy, FDI flows for 2020 totaled US dollars 29.1 billion, an increase of 11.7% compared to the preliminary information from 2019. The Secretariat cited COVID's impact, obviously, on the global economic activity as the main reason for the decline, and that's expected to bump up soon as we get back to normal. And so this is consistently showing us that the U.S. with FDIs is one of the main contributors to Mexico. So there's been a lot of people that have done it. A lot of people have been experienced with it. Purchasing power parity. Going to go through this super quick. It's Purchasing power parity of Mexico is approximately 9.5 and is increasing by roughly 2.18% per year, meaning it would take 9.5 times the amount of currency in Mexico to purchase the same good in the United States. So that's something to think of as you look at these different graphs. That's something to consider as we move into Mexico, that the dollar definitely outweighs the peso. Moving on to GDP annual growth. Mexico has had a lot of potential in the GDP growth rate, and in Q3 of 2021, actually, Mexico had a 4.5% rebound from the 8.5% contraction, excuse me, in 2020 from the COVID year. For the venture, this is very promising as it shows the economy is in a rebound and it is a good time to invest. With current inflation and the rates that are going on right now, inflation, as we know, is rampant worldwide, and it's no different in Mexico right now, reaching an all-time high in 2021 of 7.36%. In regards to the venture, inflation is devaluing the currency of the peso in Mexico, which means we need to maintain the cheapest margins possible in production to help our selling price point attainable by the general population. So that's a big thing to consider as well as we go forward. With the current lending rate, this is a huge part for our company to consider and to observe, as there will be loans obviously that are going to be placed on our venture as we open up buildings and need production and we need different supplies. Those high interest rates will deter the growth of the company and slow its progress if the loans are taken out at the wrong time. So it's good to keep an eye out on that. If we need to wait a couple years to get a lower interest rate, that might be worth it. Now comparing the currency super quick. The past 5 years, as we look at the exchange rate of the peso to the dollar, the main reason for the major decrease in strength in 2020 was the COVID year, for sure. Rates went up as well as did inflation. Other than that, the peso has been a steady currency, honestly, in comparison to the US dollar. The impact of the exchange rate from an FDI standpoint for our venture is there is a benefit of the dollar being able to purchase more when the peso drops in strength. With that being said, again, the general population needs to be able to afford the product with a weak peso, and that's bad for business. Mitigating this is once again coming down to making the product affordable, but also risk will go away when the dollar is stronger. Exchanging currency when peso is super weak is a great way to capitalize on our situation. So really quick, breaking down our product ideas. For casual men's shoes, we think this is a good product idea because there's low availability in the market right now in Mexico. Pretty much Toms, Perry's, those basic ones that you get at Walmart and stuff like that are what people are wearing. So people want something that it's going to have a competitive advantage of a low cost and high quality. And we can achieve that by actually manufacturing that in Mexico. Possible cultural issues. People are used to their shoes. They don't want to switch them a lot of times, so we'd have to break them out of that mold. Product number 2. Basically, Mexico is trying to encourage all of their citizens to electronically file their taxes or just file their taxes, but there's low availability right now and very little knowledge about it. So there's competition like Tax Turbo, H&R Block that already do this, but they don't specify as much for Mexico. And so we have an opportunity here to get into the market, make something low cost and very easy to access, but it'll probably run into some issues of people who don't want to do it, who have never done it. So we need to really attack the younger generation with that. And then lastly, for our product idea number 3, saline solution for contact glasses. There's very few distributors in Mexico for this. There's a lot of American-based companies that actually ship this to Mexico. So as we were to build it locally in Mexico, we'd improve on cost and quality. And there would be people, obviously, who are culturally used to wearing glasses, but as we showed them the effects of contacts, we'd be able to sell them on it. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our presentation on why we should integrate our business into Mexico. We hope this helped kind of explain things. Here are our references super quick for you to peek through, and we'd love to get your feedback as soon as we can. Thank you so much.